From the moment you start earning, banks push a very specific narrative. Save up a massive deposit, lock yourself into a 30-year mortgage, and spend the rest of your life slowly paying it off. Buying a personal house early in life traps your hard-earned cash inside those walls. That liquidity sits idle, completely unavailable to leverage into a business or an investment that actually grows your net worth. I had to find a different path. I left school at 16 with zero qualifications and started working as a carpenter's apprentice for $2 an hour. Today, I manage a multi-million-dollar investment portfolio. I built that wealth by focusing on the leverage and the access to property, rather than the physical ownership of the bricks themselves. I used arbitrage. Arbitrage is an economic concept where you act as the middleman, generating a profit by taking advantage of a price difference between two separate markets. When you apply that to property, real estate wealth becomes entirely detached from hoarding land. You can control the flow of money and collect the profits without taking on a single liability from the bank. The lowest barrier to entry is deal sourcing. You act as a matchmaker, connecting cash-rich property investors with highly motivated property sellers and taking a fee for the introduction. Investors constantly need new opportunities, and right now, real-world economic pressures like job losses or rising interest rates mean there are homeowners desperate to sell quickly, off-market, for a lower price. On a top trumps card, hustle is a 3 out of 5. Money needed is a 5, costing $0. Earning potential is also a 5. The pipeline is simple. Educate yourself, build a network, and find those undervalued deals. In this model, information holds far more value than capital. Because you hold the details of a profitable deal, you have the leverage to demand a finder's fee of several $1,000s without risking a single dime of your own money. If you want recurring cash flow rather than one-off fees, you can use lease arbitrage. You don't need a property deed to collect rent, you only need a valid lease agreement. The strategy works by securing a long-term rental lease on an apartment and then subletting that exact same space short-term on platforms like Airbnb. To do this legally and avoid eviction, you must get the landlord's permission in writing. The easiest way to get a yes is to frame it as a benefit for them, offering guaranteed rent and a professionally cleaned, maintained property. On our scorecard, the friendliness level stays at a 3. The money required drops to a 2, since you'll need $5,000 to $15,000 for the initial lease and furnishings, but the earning potential remains a solid 5. By optimizing how a physical space is utilized on a day-to-day basis, you generate the kind of high cash flow normally reserved for property owners, completely bypassing the massive barrier of saving for a mortgage deposit. If you want a strategy that is completely hands-off, you can use capital arbitrage by investing in REITs. A REIT, or Real Estate Investment Trust, is a company that owns and operates income-producing real estate, allowing you to buy shares in billion-dollar commercial properties with pocket change. Think of it like friends chipping in to buy a skyscraper together. You own the doors, someone else owns the windows, and you share the profits. By law, REITs must pay out at least 90% of taxable profits directly to investors as dividends. I buy my fractional REIT shares using Trading 212 right from my phone. You can set up pies to automatically invest money across different trusts. And if you use the promo code Tilbury, they'll give you a free fractional share worth up to £100 to get started. Looking at the final scorecard, REITs score a 5 out of 5 for friendliness, since effort is virtually 0. They score a 5 for money needed, as you start with $1. Earning potential sits at a 3 out of 5, representing steady, passive growth. You no longer need to be a billionaire to collect rent from a portfolio of warehouses, hotels, and office buildings. The commercial real estate market is now entirely democratized. You don't even need to look for external properties to start playing the middleman. You can use space arbitrage on the unused assets you already control. A few years ago, a friend of mine was struggling to pay his bills. He happened to live right near a busy train station in London, so I suggested he rent out his empty driveway to commuters. He had enough space for 2 cars. By charging people $70 a week to park there while they went to work, he immediately created $140 a week in passive income. Whether it's an empty garage, a spare room, or a driveway, recognizing the inefficiencies in your immediate surroundings and monetizing them is the purest form of real estate investing. Profit in property now comes from solving market inefficiencies rather than simply hoarding bricks and mortar. Look at your own situation and assess your stats. Do you have an abundance of free time to hustle and build a network, or do you have a small amount of capital ready to deploy? Pick the arbitrage method that matches your reality. Grab your free share on Trading 212 and start building a portfolio today. The traditional system relies on you believing that you need the bank's money to participate. By stepping in as the middleman, you bypass their rules, avoid their debt, and rig the game entirely in your favor.